Hey everyone, welcome to the Dare to Care podcast, the podcast where we talk about the inner workings of ministry at Inspire Family Fellowship and community stories within the church. If you have any comments, stories, or questions about Inspire or our Dare to Care ministries at any point during the podcast today, feel free to send those questions to Amy at inspirefamily.org. We also invite you to join us in person at Inspire any Sunday or Wednesday that you're able, 523 North 21st Street, Bismarck, North Dakota. Our Sunday services are at 9:15 and 10:45, and Wednesday services we start with a meal at 5, classes for all ages at 6, and the family service at 7. My name is Ty Farnsworth. I am the worship coordinator here at Inspire Family Fellowship, joined by our pastor with many titles.
Many titles. None of them legit, but just Rob. Rob.
Pastor Rob.
Pastor Rob. Here I am.
And our special guest today, Mr. Warren Naslund. Warren, how are you doing today?
Doing very good. Thank you for having me on today.
We have heard from your father, your mother, and your younger brother.
Sounds about right.
Not yet your sister.
We'll have to get her on here sometime, too.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that way people can collect the whole set.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
But apart from the Peskeys, I think the Naslund family has been kind of our most explored family in this podcast.
Yeah, we've been fairly active, I think, within the church for a long time.
Your family were one of the original members.
Yep.
I think of you as the original youth group member.
Yes, we
Warren
were.
Was like the first high schooler. There was a couple of you. Who else was in that group?
So I believe there's 5 of us. It was me, Andrew Degum, and Emma, and 2 of her closest friends that were all in the same age group. We all graduated at the same time. But we had all initially started with Inspire since the Baymont days. So
sure.
We had, for instance, I was in the nursery for like 3 or 4 years when I was in middle school and middle school through high school to help out with kids, and then eventually transitioned into a youth group role and doing some sort of that stuff within the church. I know I sure helped a lot with band and playing piano and stuff too through high school, which was that was a blast. Yeah. I loved it. Getting to do synth and stuff for all those years and stuff. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
So
you guys go all the way back.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Inspire. So. And now you're off at college, and that's cool. And we'll get there, but I want to go back and I want to get to know you personally. You were born and raised and ended up in a podcast room. What happened in between?
A lot of things. I was originally born in Wisconsin, so I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. I shouldn't say grew up. I was there until I was about the age of 6 years old, I believe.
Okay.
But I started my kindergarten year here in Bismarck. So our family moved from Wisconsin down to closer to family. So our grandparents on my mom's side. So we decided to live in Bismarck, and I went to Prairie Rose Elementary. So it's a great little. It was really nice elementary school because it was one of the smaller ones that was south of town. I think there's like 20 kids in our classroom. So I definitely got to have a little more in-person childhood with a lot of childhood friends that I still know today. I think I could probably name all of them offhand.
Yeah, because you had them
all the way through.
Because there's only one
which was really nice about the school system was like whatever you started in elementary school, you pretty much got to see those same people all the way through high school, which was nice. And I heard a lot of people who grew up on the north side of town, they would probably split up. They wouldn't see each other because they'd go to different middle schools or something like that. So it was nice to have a definitely secure childhood compared to most that I hear about. So I feel very blessed and lucky to have great parents and to grow up in a situation like that and a God-fearing relationship from the get-go.
So, like we said, we know your parents have been around here. Their podcasts are out. What was your experience with faith growing up in the Naslund household? I mean, obviously it was a part of your life. How did they do that?
It was through a lot of action, I would say. So, there wasn't the traditional, reprimand of, getting yelled at by your mom or any of that. Well, you had specific punishments for stuff. And also rewards, too, if depending on how, I guess within that family household. But it was all faith driven. So we were all taught by my mom and my dad about the Bible very early on in our ages. I remember my mom would read the Bible to us and some of the simpler stories within Romans, as well as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I knew about the Trinity and a lot of stuff early on within probably by the age of 8 years old, I would say. I was fairly versed in a lot of the early, like, child, because I know a lot of kids don't really get a lot of that from their parents. I kind of realize a lot of people who do come to church, they don't know how to do it properly. So that, coming to church and, having your kids go to Sunday school is a great thing because you can have teachers that teach different stories about the Bible.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to get both of that.
Sure.
And to, like, I would go to Sunday school, I'm like, well, I already know all these stories. And they would teach all the stuff that I'm like, I was kind of bored by Sunday school in a sense that, like, I already had received a lot of that information from, especially my mom. I think she did a lot of more of that work too when I was younger. But.
Yeah, very good. And now, if my memory serves, your family was Catholic when you were young, right? Do you
Very
remember
young.
that?
Yes, I do remember a little bit.
And then they switched churches sometime when you were a
They
kid.
did, yeah.
But
When I was about 7, I believe they switched. But up until the age of 5 or 6, I believe we were like Catholic.
Okay.
So
do you remember those days?
I do, yeah. So like my mom came from a Catholic family. My dad kind of was just in the middle, especially through college. But my dad was very faith-based, and he knew that there was something bigger out there than himself. That's why he attended a lot of, I believe he went on some ministry stuff too when he was in college. So that's another reason my mom, of course, like my dad, and that's how they got together. But it was really good for him to fall back on that Catholic base. But really, as they, kind of both grew together, I suppose, as a couple, they decided to switch to Lutheran faith, ministry. But being in the Catholic Church, it wasn't any, I wouldn't say it was any too much different. I didn't experience any, worse or better, I would say.
And
so it was
the last thing that we ever want to do is knock down anybody's faith or
absolutely,
denomination.
yeah.
I'm curious, though, because I do think there are sometimes people are worried about confusing their kids. We go to Catholic church on Sundays, we go to Lutheran church on Wednesday.
It was confusing.
Was it?
I would say that first probably year, I was like, man, we went to probably like 5 different churches, I think, in the span of a year.
Yeah.
So it was like 1 month we went to a church like 3 times on 3 different Sundays, and then we were at a different church. So I have like very few vague memories of like different churches that we went to during that time. And then also during the time we were going to different churches, I was also enrolled in the Catholic baptism, or it's the confirmation that we do here in like 10th grade, but they do it second, CC, like but they do it in like 2nd grade. They do it really early. So I was still in that, but I'm like, okay, so I'm going to this, but we're also going to different church at the same time. So it was a little bit different being, I guess, in that situation. But after a year, I kind of, everything smoothed out when we found Charity, which, moved on to Inspire.
Right.
And I definitely felt grounded after that. There wasn't really too much of an issue, I'd say.
I'm curious now, I don't know, how old are you, 22?
21. Turned 22 in March.
Okay, almost 22.
Yeah.
20 years later, do you feel like that moving around was bad, or do you feel like it enriched your faith, or what did looking back, what would you do differently, or would you keep it the same, or?
Yeah, I think it was just a big learning process, to be honest. I don't know if it was the best, just because I was more and so confused of what was going on, but I knew that I had both loving parents, right, at the end of the day, and I knew that I could trust them, which was nice. So I was like, okay, Mom and Dad are taking us here this week. Don't know why we're doing it, but it was nice to not be as confused because I could just look towards my parents, because I did view them with respect.
They were the consistent part of it.
They were the consistent part, yep. And they were consistent in that every Sunday, it didn't matter if we were going to one church or the other, we were going to a church, right? And we were still going to follow the Bible that, I was read to as a kid. Another thing that did help me, I think, the most was there's a Bible out there called the Action Bible. I don't know if you've heard of it or
I've heard
seen.
of the Action Bible, yeah.
But the writer who did it works for the DC Comics company, and the visuals are impeccable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a comic book.
It's kind of like a comic book, but what was really cool was it gave probably some of the cooler stories, I would say, within the Bible.
It's not the whole Bible.
It's not the whole Bible. Right. But for what's in there visually as a kid, which I think my parents knew early on, I was a visual learner for sure. I always like working with my hands and all that. But that was a very good tool for me to visualize the Bible and kind of the emotions of what a lot of the disciples went through. So that Bible in itself, I think, was a really pivotal part of my childhood because I could turn to that and I could see. It was just a very visual, compelling part of the Bible. I still think of some of those pictures and the stuff that he drew within that Bible when I even read other verses now.
Oh, interesting.
And it's just, it's like a mental rock for me.
Sure.
Which is, it's weird, but it works.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. That was that was also another thing that I enjoyed.
Oh, for sure. And obviously your parents are still part of your life now,
Yes,
and so that
absolutely.
doesn't ever expire. But as you got a little older, maybe middle school or high school, where did you start to find... Because I feel like that's when most kids, if they're brought up in the church, they sort of start to make the faith their own. You know, where,
absolutely.
yeah, my parents made me go when we were kids, but now I kind of want to do it. Because you crossed that line somewhere where this isn't,
did, yeah.
My parents aren't making me go, I just want to be here.
I
when
would
and
say
how did that happen for you?
That was probably 7th grade for me.
7th grade?
Yeah, well, that was the kind of pivotal. Like, I wasn't necessarily driving yet, but it was like, my parents would almost ask me, like, hey, we're going to go to church. Do you want to come? And I'm like, well, I kind of don't have to go with you. And like, well, no. Like, this is kind of something that you need to believe. So they kind of made that, which I think was a probably good thing, too, because I kind of had to make the decision of like, well, is this something that I truly believe, or am I doing it because my parents do it?
Sure.
So I definitely had about a year, I would say, maybe even probably a year and a half, 7th through 8th grade to 9th grade, and maybe that year and a half time span of I would still go to church, but I kind of more dove deep into what I believed. And I'm like, okay, well, is this whole God Bible thing true? Like, yes, it was weird because I'd self-reflect on stuff I was taught when I was 5 years old and 6 years old and 7 years old, and just kind of looking at, okay, well, I believed it because my parents told me. Okay, that's kind of a good reason to believe something.
Yeah,
I
it's a
love
good
my
start.
parents. Yeah, great start. But then, I would have almost, you could say shower thoughts of like, oh man, it's really God out there. It's really heaven out there. And then the more I would have to turn back to the Bible for some of that stuff, and I would get confused. So I would say like one of the parts of the Bible that helped me out was Romans specifically, just because of I anchored myself in like historical background. So I liked history a lot too in high school, or I should say more middle school. High school not so much. I more enjoyed math, but in middle school I liked history, and like I liked the World War II. I went for like the World War II phase. I don't know if anyone had that.
I had the World War.
Yeah, I feel like that's a
World War
Civil
II
War.
phase.
Yeah, so I was like in the World War II phase, and then I was like, then I'm thinking about history, and I'm like, I'm reading Romans and all the stuff that happened in the book of Romans, and then going back and then kind of just using, because Google was the only thing at the time.
Right.
We didn't have AI. You could just ask specific verses about certain time periods, and I kind of got to just do a little exploring on my own, and that was cool because everything I would read in the book of Romans was pretty much factually true with what I found on the internet as far as Google. And I'm like, well, this seems probably the most legit reason for me to believe the Bible, but then also to then follow what the Bible teaches, which is faith in Jesus. So that was another thing. Was like, well, from a historical standpoint, the Bible seems absolutely completely accurate from what I had found. And then for me, there's just like one of the two reasons. I'm like, well, there's no reason for me not believe that Jesus was a real person that existed, was the reason that we are saved today. And that was kind of my pivotal, I would say, moment.
Where it kind of clicked for you.
It kind of clicked for me because
really cool.
If 2 + 2 = 4, there's no reason 4 + 4 should equal 8. So,
Spoken like a good engineer.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So yeah, that was kind of my pivotal moment, I would say.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, and man, I think about Romans. If I were going to take one book of the Bible that was like all of it,
it's
Romans. And I say that in good and bad. Our listeners are going to run, I'm going to read Romans. Like, well, yes.
It's a big book.
But it's hard. It's hard and it's confusing. And, you talk about middle school. It's like, I was reading Romans. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
I enjoyed it because there was, and that was another thing too, is like that action Bible I read. There was actually quite a lot of parables from Romans, specifically, which was cool. But it just kind of made me more curious. So that was the big reason I read it a lot. It's probably the one I'd say it's probably the Bible book I quote the most. Is Romans. But yeah.
Yeah, my memory verse from confirmation was Romans. So, okay, and then I'm going to keep moving you along in your life here.
Absolutely.
Great stories. How old were you, or what grade were you in when Inspire started?
Oh my goodness, I think
it's about.
I believe that was 9th grade.
9th grade. That's what I was going to guess.
I think it was 9th grade was Inspire.
And when you started, I remember we had Ignite.
Yep, we had Ignite
from the get go, and then but we did the high school youth group afterwards, and it was like you and Randy and maybe Cora Dietzman.
Yeah, me, Cora, and Emma and Andrew. But I think
sitting around a table at the Baymont.
That was pretty much it. Yeah, we went up upstairs to the main, or there was an upstairs room that was like for birthday parties or something.
Yeah,
and we would just sit up there for an hour and talk. It was interesting.
Well, how was it? Interesting? Was it fun? Was it?
It was usually fun. We didn't have any bad times, I would say, or any bad memories. It was just cool because I don't think we talked about the Bible too much. It was mostly talking about school because I think Randy was a little worried at the time of us just connecting and being the start of the youth group and relating about things. So, and because whatever we heard kind of up there from Randy is what he pretty much preached about, for Wednesday Ignite.
For sure.
So he kind of wanted to just dive into here, like, what's high school? How's high school? Like, how do you guys move through the school system while also being Christian? Because there's definitely a lot of teachers, I would say, that I know personally that are Christian and faith-based, but there's also a lot of them that are not. So it's a very, I wouldn't say unbiased, but like, it's definitely a battleground. High school is, for sure, especially within the younger generation. At least that's what it is for me, because most of my classmates, I don't think were like faith-based or Catholic or Lutheran or followed God.
Battleground's a good word for it. That's how I felt in high school, that it was a battleground too. So that's interesting. So then I'm curious, I don't think there's anything wrong with your youth group experience, but if you compared it to what we have now, it's a whole different...
Well, I was going to ask,
ball game,
we've heard a few different perspectives on the explosion, where you guys went to camp with like 5 kids.
Oh, yeah. It was...
And then when we started...
Were you part of that too?
I was a part of that. So, and it was hilarious. Emma, one day at like youth group, which was like maybe 8 of us at the time, she's like, Warren, you need to come to youth group or youth camp with us. I'm like... Youth camp? Like, we don't have a youth camp. She's like, yeah, well, my older brother's taking us, and he's gonna be the band there, and you should just come. And I'm like, I don't know. Like me, I was definitely more introverted at the time. Like, I don't even want to talk to anyone hardly. But I was like, I don't know if I want to go. And I ran a van with a bunch of people, and she pretty much dragged me through the gutters to go there because I was the only guy, and she was not gonna go with like 4 other girls that she didn't know or whatever, and she wanted a friend because I had known her since like probably middle school, I'd say, within Ignite. Yeah. But I'm glad she did, because we showed up with 5 people, and I think it was the next year then we showed up with like 20. It was ridiculous.
What happened there? Because you guys came back and it was like, nope, we're doing this now.
Yep, it was. It was a great camp. I believe it was 5 days, and it was very much close to what Ignite was for us. So that was really cool. And then of course all the normal camp things, getting to go doing the water slides and playing games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was a very faith-based, it was like Ignite but more, and we really liked that, and we wanted to bring that back. And we did such a good job of it, I think, that we just invited, like, I personally invited probably 10 or 15 friends that I knew who weren't even like, I don't think they even knew about God to begin with.
Yeah.
I just told them, hey, do you want to just come to Ignite one day? Do you want to just come and do this? And all 5 of us doing that pretty much exploded the entire youth group within, I would say, about 7 months.
Yeah, it was fast.
It was pretty much that next, because it was in the summer of July, up until probably that winter, we went from 5-6 kids for youth group to like 25, 20 kids.
Yeah. And now we're coming close to 100.
Yeah. And back then, I think that was like 6th grade through 12. Now we have like 2 different groups.
Right.
We have like 30 kids in the high school and like another 30 or 40 in middle school.
I think it's even more than that. I think it's like 60, 80 in each group.
Yeah, that's a lot. Huge. That's crazy. But yeah, that was definitely the explosion, was us kind of getting fired up about why we believe what we believe, and having an opportunity to share that with others in a way that made us not feel, vulnerable, I guess. Because, it's hard to talk about, I believe about this guy in the sky, and, going to school. Yeah. And it was like, hey, it's a fun time. We get to sing some songs and just kind of connect. And that was a big thing, was connection.
Sure.
And I feel like that was a really big part of why it worked, because I definitely knew a lot of people in high school that did not have the same sort of connections that me and Emma and some of us had, with, especially with internally with our families. Because, for instance, one of my closest friends, Hunter, I eventually asked him enough times that he came, and he came to follow and know Christ because of that. If I never did, I don't think he'd be the same person he is today, to be honest.
Yeah.
He grew up from a divorced home. He had issues, and he told me, I think he broke down in the car one day when I was talking to him, and he's like, I cannot believe I never knew about this or knew what God, or it's like, I remember going to church with my grandparents when I was younger. I didn't know what any of it was about, enough to where he came to camp the next year when I told him about it, and completely converted his life to Christ, I think a month after.
Cool.
And awesome. It was cool to definitely see that, I'd say, but I don't think I was the only one. There was definitely a lot of friends that Emma had.
There was a crew of you, but this is life.
Yeah.
We don't have access to you guys because you all graduate and go off to college.
Yeah, no, we just
so
get spit out the other end.
We're recording this over your Christmas break, so
yeah.
we had you back in town for a little bit. That's super cool. So speaking of college, then you graduated and you're off at NDSU and studying mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering, yep. That's what I wanted to start with. I knew I was good at math, or I was good at it. I didn't like it. I knew I could do it, so that was the starter. And that's what I heard was like, okay, well, this degree is going to help you get to build things. I like building things. I had built a go-kart when I was younger and did some other stuff with welding, and I was like, well, this is kind of what I want to do.
I think I've seen you more in your garage than your house.
Probably.
In our experiences together.
Yeah, my mom definitely brings me out of the gutter over Christmas break because I have been at our shop for the last 4 days straight. So getting some good family time too. But it was definitely the right degree, I think, because I definitely want to be an engineer. You don't really figure that out, though, to your sophomore year, I'd say. It's definitely the whole joke is like, oh, look to your left, look to your right. Only 2/3 of you are going to, or 2/3 of you people that you see are going to be gone. And that's very true. I think my class was maybe 150, 200 people that I regularly saw freshman year, and now I see 40. Maybe.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, if you could figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life your sophomore year of college, I think you're still pretty far ahead of the curve. Speaking of a guy who changed careers in his 40s and is back in school again.
It definitely helps. Yeah, and I think the big thing that solidified that was, I know freshman year, I did one semester. I got really lucky with a really nice roommate. He was also Lutheran. He came from the cities. His name's George. And it was really cool. He's African. And he, his... I'd say what he grew up with was completely different from he definitely grew up in a more stricter household than I did. His dad's also the pastor at their church, so that definitely
you gotta watch out for those pastors.
Yeah, I know. He was my freshman year. I think I had to reel him in a little bit. He was definitely wanting to go off the rails.
He was in his rebellious phase.
Oh yes, 100%.
Thank goodness my kids won't have one of those. You too, Ty.
Yeah, so he. He definitely partied a lot more. I think I went to 1 or 2 parties because I never drank freshman year or did anything illegal, and I just went to some of those frat parties because you could, and it wasn't.
That's where the people are.
That's where the people. It's college, and I didn't like it too much. Well, I don't know. I was kind of on the fence because it was fun. You got to dance, you got to party. Granted, some of it was really rooted in sin, which was not the greatest. George went completely off the rails. He was hammered. He was I definitely helped reel him in a little bit, I would say. And he's a better man now today as well, so he's doing just great.
It's a judgment-free space.
Yeah.
We'll get him on the podcast some of these.
Yeah,
and then we'll get your stories.
Well, it was hilarious. So I did bring him here once for a Sunday Mass over the summer. So that next freshman summer, I had him come down here and hang out for a week and stuff, and he went to Ignite here. He really liked it.
Oh, cool.
He enjoyed it. So he said he'd have some grandparents turning in their graves if they went to a church like this, just because of the traditional background he comes from.
I get it,
But he definitely accepted me into his family, and so did his family a lot too. I got to go to his sister's graduation party and meet his family, and that was a fun time. Very good food. I must say that was definitely some cultural differences, but it was amazing.
So talk though about, and you're dancing around about what does faith look like in college when you are faced with parties and roommates?
It's completely different than anything I had experienced.
Was there anything? Because again, I'm
no, you're fine.
I know you. I know your family. You seem, as far as I can tell, to still be a faithful young man.
Yes.
You're coming to church whenever you're home, and not that defines faith, but
right, absolutely.
How is it that you could remain faithful, or where did you find God in college when a lot of people tend to, like you said, to kind of go off the rails?
Just drift, yeah, absolutely.
Drift, that's a good word. What was it for you that kept that foundation
I
a little more solid?
had to search hard because unfortunately, even in the college setting, there's not a lot of outreach, I would say.
Okay.
I had to find the program, so I know there's Crew and there's Chi Alpha. Chi Alpha really stuck with me,
sure.
But I had to go out and find it. I didn't know it existed until I ran into a guy who was at a booth one day, at the college, and he was doing it for a club. He wasn't even doing it for Chi Alpha. He's like, well, hey, and he was definitely more faith-based, even more, I'd say more than me, just because he was more outgoing about it, and more extroverted about it. And he was like, hey, do you want to come to a Bible study that we have? Are you faith-based? Do you read the book? Or do you follow Jesus? And I'm like, absolutely. It's I haven't found anyone here to be I guess be in a family setting with, because
right.
I'm all alone. I have my roommate, but I hardly see him. We're in different classes, and we're just
right.
You kind of, I've probably felt the most alone I ever felt freshman, sophomore year. It was very difficult time.
Yeah.
Even still going to a Bible study once a week, or like going to the church. Unfortunately, I have to admit, I am a junior in college. I still have not found a church in Fargo that I've enjoyed going to. I've gone to a couple, and it just has not been the same since going to Ignite. The closest I've come to is Chi Alpha, just because they do have youth group on Wednesdays, Thursdays at 7 p.m. at the Union. So I get to go to that. But with engineering, I hardly even find the time to get to go to some of that stuff because, I mean, I get done with my class at 3 o'clock, and I'm studying till maybe 10 o'clock at night.
Sure, yeah.
And so that part kind of hurts, too, because in college, you really need to work on managing your time. And maybe that's another reason why I felt so alone, was just because I definitely I'd say I have to work a little harder at my degree than a lot of people in engineering, just because I don't get stuff right away. I got to know it. If I don't know it, I mean, I'm not going to do good on any test. I don't test well. I have crazy test anxiety like any of us I know. I'm either getting a 20% on an exam or like an 85 or higher.
Right.
There's nothing in between.
Sure.
So that part of being alone and being not I wouldn't say self-isolated, but just kind of isolated from the community hurts.
Well, you talk about how important the connection was.
Yeah.
Group, you know, just
Absolutely.
connecting, friendship, and I think that's true. And it's hard to just have that magically happen. You know, you're not going to walk into another church and it poof.
No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You have to work for it, almost, I would say. Like for me, going to the Bible study I would go to on Mondays and stuff with this group of guys, I connected with a couple of them, but we're all kind of in the same position. A lot of us are kind of in engineering classes or whatever, and we're all trying to do our own thing, and we only get to see each other once for an hour, and we don't text every day or like talk to each other. Yeah. So there's just kind of like, well, you get your one day of and I would even struggle. This is another reason why I have to read the Bible myself every day. If I don't, I'm not getting I don't know, enough Jesus, I guess, in life. No, I feel like there's a better way to say that, but
sure. Well, and I'm listening to you, and I know you're friends with my son, and you know, Luke and him are tight, and so I get this world that you're talking about. I can see it; it makes sense. And my son too has said, like, you know, you go off to college, and he said it's like, you know, you find a good service here or there, and you meet people here and there. But he said it's just not the same as when you come home. And I always try to remind him, like, yeah. That's why you didn't go to college. We sent you to college. Like,
it's probably good,
you know,
yeah.
and I want to encourage you, Warren, because you got a year and a half left.
I have a year left, yeah. So next spring I'll graduate. So
first of all, I think that's really typical and normal. Like people struggle to find that, but then don't be afraid to be the Warren Naslund who was the founder of the here. You know,
I think I would be afraid sometimes because it's like I lost a part of myself leaving, you know, and I'm just in college, the weeks just blend. It's just, and you're in Fargo. It's the flattest place on earth compared to Bismarck, which and being on NDSU campus, you probably see more concrete than trees. That part doesn't help either, but you're just, I don't know. There was like a month where I don't know if I existed or didn't. Right. I just did school, and maybe if I didn't even do school, some people would call that depression, you know. Well, but it's whatever we want to call it. It's
hard. It's hard.
It was just difficult for me, I would say.
Yeah, I think and I think that's okay. And yet God was faithful through it all.
He was.
He walks with you, and sometimes gives you enough leash to see where you go. But
absolutely,
when I think about you, the word that keeps coming to my mind is firm foundation. Firm foundation. Firm foundation. So when you go off into something else, it's like, ooh, it seems like you always land back on this firm foundation.
I have to. Yeah, if I don't, I feel like I'd probably lose myself, to be honest.
Well, and you and I have done a lot of skiing together over the years. You know, it reminds me of going on the hill where all of a sudden you hit somebody, it's like, woo! And then you hit the powder or whatever it is where you can get your feet under you again and go from there. So it sounds like that's kind of what's happening. Well, that's really cool, and I love hearing your stories. And again, for a kid who I have known since you were like in middle school, probably, maybe even elementary school. I don't remember how far back.
I don't know, baby.
You know, it's no secret the Peskys and the Naslands are a tight group of people. We love hanging out together. It's just been a pleasure to watch you grow and watch you learn and wrestle with all of these things. You know, again, it's fun to hear you say yeah, I just got to work and study. And it's like, yeah, I remember when you were a little punk, just running around playing. And you're like, why are your parents just always so lame? It's like, yeah, now you're lame too. And
yeah, kind of. I would say by time of college is fairly lame compared to everyone else.
Lame in all the right ways, though.
Right, absolutely.
And it's just exciting to see you grow and mature and become the man that God created you to be. And I don't know if Ty has any questions that he wants to add.
No, I think we covered a lot of the stuff I know about you, Warren, and we talked about you being part of that explosion of the youth group that really grew Ignite into what it is now. And
I'm curious. So here's my question: what would you say to the next generation? Like, maybe they're middle schoolers right now, or maybe they're freshmen in high school. The youth group doesn't need to explode. The explosion has happened. I
don't know if we explode, we're gonna pop.
Tell me about
that. And we're working on that too.
Yeah, no, we are.
That's a different podcast. But but what would you say to a younger person, or maybe even a kid getting ready? They're connected here, but college is on the horizon, and what's next? If you could go back in time 5 years, what would you want to tell yourself?
If I was going to go back in time 5 years, I think the biggest thing I would tell myself is not to be so hard on myself.
Oh.
And the reason I say that is because I personally, I don't even know if it's, I think this is maybe a lot of people who go off and do college. I would take a lot of the blame myself, and then I wouldn't have anybody to give it to. Because I'm supposed to give that to God. Yeah. I'm supposed to give the shame and the guilt of messing up to God. It's not something I need to take and carry with me all the time. And whenever I would do the littlest things wrong, or when it came to meeting somebody new, or times where I would probably have internal conviction from the Holy Spirit of, maybe I should have talked to this person when I saw them about God. Maybe I should have done this. And that was something that I think the devil really tried to attack me with in college. And it was the reason I became a lot more isolated than I ever had. Depressed was I never gave up that guilt, and I still struggle with it. I think even now, but the guilt of not doing enough or not being enough because I'm alone. And if I was gonna go back and tell myself 5 years, I would say take that opportunity to pray and give that up to God, because you're not going to be able to handle it, and it will break you down, and it will not be something good for you, because it will not help you be the better person. It won't help you reach out to other people. It won't help you see the opportunities in front of you that you could have taken when it comes to meeting people or just spreading the gospel.
Sure.
So that part for me, that's probably what I would tell myself 5 years ago.
Well, that seems like good advice.
I took, and you could. I wanted to even sum it up and just say, I'll just read the Bible more, but that doesn't really help a lot of people, I would say, just because I would internally just take all this conflict when I would not talk to somebody I should have, or maybe did the wrong thing in person, or I'm trying to think of specific examples where, let's say I was like, one of them, I was in this group project with some students freshman year who were definitely not Christ orientated, and that could have been a complete changeover for them.
Sure.
Granted, I don't see them anymore because I don't think they made it through the degree or not, but maybe they would have. And I shouldn't put that blame on myself.
Yeah.
But I also, and I need to give that to God, but that could have been an opportunity instead of a blame, for me. That could have been the opportunity I should have seen by not thinking I need to do it on my own and trusting God, because He's the one who changes hearts and minds. I need to be the opportunity for someone else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I definitely discovered when I was in high school, and I led with that, but I think it kind of dwindled as I went to college, and kind of finding that step.
Something you said earlier reminded me of that scripture, and it might even be from Romans. I could be wrong. I'm really bad at knowing which verse is verse, but Paul talks about faith comes from hearing. But how can they hear if no one will tell them? You know what I mean? If no one's, and that's...
How will they know? Yeah.
How will they know? Yeah. So anyway, all great. Well, thank you, Warren, so much for taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, no problem.
Spend some time with us. I think what I'll do is I'm going to just close with a little prayer.
Okay.
And then Ty will give us our outro. But again, I do this with a lot of our guests. But you, your whole family, but especially even you, I think of you as the tip of the spear of our youth program.
Thanks.
We experimented on you.
Yeah.
Some of it went well. Some of it didn't go well.
We learned what didn't go well.
Yep. And you and your kind of crew of 5 or so that went down to that camp really had a huge impact for years and years and years and years to come. And,
absolutely.
we talk a lot about spreading seeds here. We don't know what's going to grow or how it's going to grow or what's going to grow. But you're wearing a new seed T-shirt right now.
Oh yeah, no. These are my work shirts because this company doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. But I just think of that metaphor. Some people scatter a handful of seeds, and I think you dumped a whole bag out and just went whoosh, and a lot of those seeds have grown and flourished, and I think God is pleased with you. So I appreciate all you've done and all you continue doing. It's going to be fun to watch you grow and mature and what you're going to do as an engineer and all of those things. Now,
I hope to be back in Bismarck for sure. After
we hope you come back too, because that's the worst part of this job is sending kids away. But we love it when they come back. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of our church. And let's go ahead and close with prayer.
Thank you.
God, we thank you so much for this day and for your blessings. And Lord, I just lift up Warren to you, and I thank you for the blessing that he has been in our lives, for me personally as his friend, but also all the things he and his family have done at this church. Lord, I pray for his future. I pray for his schooling. I pray for all the math problems he has to answer at school. But Lord, I just pray that you bless him and you guide him, and that you continue to grow him and show him where you have called him to minister in this world at NDSU. And I selfishly pray that he comes back here to us in a year or so when he's done. But wherever he goes, Lord, I just pray that he knows you are with him. Lord, I lift up our listeners. I pray that you keep them safe, healthy, and happy, that you watch over them and guide them and bless them and help them to shed the guilt and the fear and take those opportunities that you are putting in front of them to spread your word and to spread seeds of their own, so that your will be done and that we can all grow closer to you in Christ. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, Warren, thank you so much for joining us today. And Rob, thank you for being a part of this podcast.
I always love hanging out with Warren.
Me too.
These are good times.
We had the privilege of visiting you down in Fargo a couple months ago when we did our college tour. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
that was a good time.
But thank you both. For those of you listening, if you've never been a part of Inspire or any of our services, we do, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, have Sunday services at 9:15 and 10:45, and Wednesday nights we do a meal at 5, classes at 6 for all ages, and a family service at 7. You're more than welcome to join us if you've never been a part of that, or if you have been a part of that, please feel free to come back. We'd love to see you again. Otherwise, we'll see you next Thursday.